Breaking news in the breach of national security by the Trump administration, and the president now saying his defense secretary had nothing to do with it. This is all in the wake of explosive news signal messages released by The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg in a new article today. Now, first, to those newest details reported by Goldberg, he says because of what the president and members of his national security team said after his first story published.
Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
It wasn't classified information, so this was not classified.
There was no classified material that was shared in that
so then
signal
if there were no
chat.
My communications, to be clear, in a signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information.
And Goldberg writes today that while he initially declined to report the specifics of the military plans he was sent, quote, the statements by Hegseth, Gabbard, Ratcliffe, and Trump, combined with the assertions made by numerous administration officials that we are lying about the context of the signal texts, have led us to believe that people should see the text in order to reach their own conclusions. Now, we thought it'd be useful to hear some of the text conversation that was exchanged via Signal. Using artificial intelligence software, CNN has created an audio version of the group chat. The voices used are reading the text neutrally. No attempt has been made to imitate the actual voices of the officials or alter the text exchange in any way. Even typos are read as they are in the text. Now, present on the Signal chat, in addition to the reporter Jeffrey Goldberg, were National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, who admits he accidentally added Goldberg to the chat. Not Vice President J.D. Vance was there. Secretary of State Pete Hegseth with us as well. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, and Middle East Special Envoy Steve Witkoff.
Team. Establishing a principals group for coordination on Houthis, particularly for over the next 72 hours. My deputy Alex Wong is pulling together a Tiger team at deputy/agency chief of staff level, following up from the meeting in the sit room this morning for action items, and we'll be sending that out later this evening. Please provide the best staff POC from your team for us to coordinate with over the next couple days and over the weekend. Thanks.
Mike Needham for State. Andy Baker for VP.
Joe Kent for DNI.
Dan Katz for Treasury.
Dan Caldwell for DOD.
Brian McCormick for NSC.
Team. You should have a statement of conclusions with taskings per the President's guidance this morning in your high-side inboxes. State and DOD. We developed suggested notification lists for regional allies and partners. Joint Staff is sending this AM a more specific sequence of events in the coming days, and we will work with DOD to ensure COS, OVP, and POTUS are briefed.
Team, I am out for the day doing an economic event in Michigan, but I think we are making a mistake. 3% of U.S. trade runs through the Suez. 40% of European trade does. There is a real risk that the public doesn't understand this, or why it's necessary. The strongest reason to do this is, as POTUS said, to send a message. But I am not sure the president is aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. There's a further risk that we see a moderate to severe spike in oil prices. I am willing to support the consensus of the team and keep these concerns to myself. But there is a strong argument for delaying this a month, doing the messaging work on why this matters, seeing where the economy is, etc.
There is nothing time-sensitive driving the timeline. We'll have the exact same options in a month. The Israelis will likely take strikes and therefore ask us for more support to replenish whatever they use against the Houthis. But that's a minor factor. I will send you the unclassed data we pulled on BAM shipping.
From CIA perspective, we are mobilizing assets to support now, but a delay would not negatively impact us, and additional time would be used to identify better starting points for coverage on Houthi leadership.
VP, I understand your concerns and fully support you raising with POTUS. Important considerations, most of which are tough to know how they play out. Economy, Ukraine peace, Gaza, etc. I think messaging is going to be tough no matter what. Nobody knows who the Houthis are, which is why we would need to stay focused on 1. Biden failed, and 2. Iran funded. Waiting a few weeks or a month does not fundamentally change the calculus. 2 immediate risks on waiting. 1. This leaks, and we look indecisive. 2. Israel takes an action first, or Gaza ceasefire falls apart, and we don't get to start this on our own terms. We can manage both. We are prepared to execute, and if I had final go or no-go vote, I believe we should. This, not about the Houthis. I see it as 2 things. 1. restoring freedom of navigation, a core national interest, and 2, re-establish deterrence, which Biden cratered. But we can easily pause. And if we do, I will do all we can to enforce 100% OPSEC. I welcome other thoughts.
The trade figures we have are 15% of global and 30% of container. It's difficult to break that down to U.S. specific because much of the container, either going through the Red Sea still or around the Cape of Good Hope, are components going to Europe that turns into manufactured goods for transatlantic trade to the United States. Whether we pull the plug or not today, European navies do not have the capability to defend against the types of sophisticated, anti-ship, cruise missiles, and drones the Houthis are now using. So whether it's now or several weeks from now, it will have to be the United States that reopens these shipping lanes. Per the President's request, we are working with DoD and state to determine how to compile the cost associated and levy them on the Europeans. As we stated in the first PC, we have a fundamental decision of allowing the sea lanes to remain closed or to reopen them now or later. We are the only ones with the capability, unfortunately. From a messaging standpoint, we absolutely add this to of horribles on why the Europeans must invest in their defense.
At Pete Hegseth, if you think we should do it, let's go. I just hate bailing Europe out again. Let's just make sure our messaging is tight here. And if there are things we can do up front to minimize risk to Saudi oil facilities, we should do it.
VP, I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic. But Mike is correct. We are the only ones on the planet, on our side of the ledger, who can do this. Nobody else even close. Question is timing. I feel like now's as good a time as any, given POTUS' directive to reopen shipping lanes. I think we should go, but POTUS still retains 24 hours of decision space.
As I heard it, the president was clear. Green light, but we soon make clear to Egypt and Europe what we expect in return. We also need to figure out how to enforce such a requirement. E.g., if Europe doesn't remunerate, then what? If the U.S. successfully restores freedom of navigation at great cost, there needs to be some further economic gain extracted in return.
Agree. Team update. Time now. 1144 ET. Weather is favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM, we are a go for mission launch. 1215 ET. F-18's launch. First strike package. 1345. Trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Also, strike drones launch. MQ-9s. 1410. More F-18s launch. Second strike package. 1415. Strike drones on target. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop, pending earlier trigger-based targets. 1536. F-18 second strike starts. Also, first sea-based Tomahawks launched. More to follow per timeline. We are currently clean on OPSEC. Godspeed to our warriors.
I will say a prayer for victory.
VP, building collapsed. Had multiple positive ID. Pete, Kurilla, the IC, amazing job.
What?
Typing too fast. The first target, their top missile guy, we had positive ID of him walking into his girlfriend's building and it's now collapsed.
Excellent.
A good start.
Good job, Pete, and your team.
The team and MAL did a great job as well.
Great work all. Powerful start.
CENTCOM is on point. Great job all. More strikes ongoing for hours tonight, and will provide full initial report tomorrow, but on time, on target, and good readouts so far.
Kudos to all, most particularly those in theater and CENTCOM. Really great. God bless.
Great work and effects.
Goldberg points out in today's article, quote, if this text had been received by someone hostile to American interests or someone merely indiscreet and with access to social media, the Houthis would have had time to prepare for what was meant to be a surprise attack on their strongholds. The consequences for American pilots could have been catastrophic. This is Defense Secretary Hegseth today.
Nobody's texting war plans. Well, I noticed this morning out came something that doesn't look like war plans. And as a matter of fact, they even changed the title to attack plans because they know it's not war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information.
They're communicating on Signal, a commercially available app. Keeping him honest, multiple current and former defense officials CNN spoke to said that any discussion of the timing, targets, or weapon systems to be used in an attack would be classified because of the potential risk to U.S. service members' lives if those plans were revealed prematurely, and under no circumstances should such discussions be conducted on a commercial app. But also notice that Secretary Hegseth there is quibbling with the semantics. Goldberg called them attack plans in today's article versus war plans in Monday's report. Seemed to be a talking point of spin shared across the administration. Late today, the president was asked about the latest and defended the Secretary of Defense and used a familiar phrase, witch hunt.
Should Secretary Hegseth consider his position over the signal?
Hegseth is doing a great job. He had nothing to do with this. Hegseth. How do you bring Hegseth into it? He had nothing to do. Look, it's all a witch hunt.